Students across the country participated in the first of several protests planned in response to recent gun violence. This week's National School Walkout came exactly 1 month after the school shooting in Parkland, Florida, that left 17 people dead. As Barbara Brozier reports, the protest has many districts grappling with how to encourage activism while still keeping kids safe.
As an assembly took place inside North Vigo High School, a large group of students stood outside in silence.
The assembly was more for a memorial, but this is more of a political issue, and we know that the school can't get involved in that, so we had to do it outside.
Their signs include the names of victims of last month's Parkland, Florida shooting, and messages that the violence must stop.
We need more gun regulations. These people just can't keep, this just can't keep happening.
The students stood in a designated area outside of the school after reaching a compromise with administrators. The superintendent says it was about keeping students safe. They were allowed to walk out, but would face a 2-hour detention. The students say it was worth it, and theirs was one of more than 3,000 organized walkouts across the country this week. Some students from Indianapolis public schools walked out of class into the War Memorial downtown.
We're trying to make sure that kids are able to go to school and feel safe instead of going to school and feeling like something's going to happen to them.
A bit further north, about 800 North Central High School students signed a petition saying they would participate in the walkout. They're demanding stricter gun laws, saying school should be a place where they feel safe.
You're walking in to school from the parking lot and you're worried and you're looking around, and we shouldn't have to do that. Like, if school is something that we need to go to, it should be a low-risk activity.
Some schools went a different route and offered students other options. Administrators met with kids from Beach Grove schools and agreed to let them plan a walk-in instead of leaving the building.
So by walking in, we still made sure everyone was safe, it was more organized, and we were able to really spread our thoughts and our ideas.
While it was short, students got the opportunity to ask city leaders and law enforcement questions about school safety.
I can't emphasize enough to you kids that you have to speak what is on your mind.
And in the rural town of Bloomfield, students focused on walking up instead of walking out.
I challenged students to find 14 other students and 3 adults to walk up to on March 14th and say something nice in honor of those who died in Parkland, Florida. All of us need to make this concerted effort every day, starting today.
Student leaders here organized a school assembly and honored victims of the Parkland shooting with empty chairs symbolizing the loss.
In just a few moments of terror, 17 people lost their lives. This could happen here. All of these people could be gone in an instant.
Organizers purposely tried to avoid politics by focusing the presentation on how they could have the most immediate impact. It's something educators are thinking about, too.
The shooter most of the time feels isolated, left out, alone. So are we doing everything that we have control of? We may not have control of what the legislatures, vote, but we can be kind. We can try to include people, and we can look out for each other.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
There's another nationwide protest called March for Our Lives. It's next Saturday. In addition to a march in Washington, D.C., several sister marches are planned throughout the country to demand an end to school shootings. Here in Indiana, people plan to march at the State House. IU Maurer School of Law professor Jody Madeira joins us now to talk just a little bit more about what this impact could have on gun laws. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, as we said, students came out all over the state in force this week. Does this have an impact? I mean, are policymakers watching this?
I think they are, and we don't tend to think of student protests as having much of an impact. They often get buried underneath other types of activism, but this is something fairly unprecedented, and I think many media reports I've seen say that the scale and the size of these protests have actually not been seen since the Vietnam War. And they're a way of certainly sustaining the momentum that came about after Parkland. And after gun shootings in the past, this tended to die out fairly soon, within 2 or 3 weeks. But I think it also may inspire other adults to take part because students need adults. You know, they can't vote, even though they might be able to vote in the midterms, but they really, you know, can really serve as a source of energy and momentum. So I think, yes, it will actually have quite an impact.
You know, you talked about those in the past. People have been doing this. What makes this one different from other types of protests?
Well, I mean, you think about protests like Black Lives Matter or Day Without Immigrants, and those were really limited to big cities. They didn't seem really national in scope. Schools avoided them because they were controversial. But here you see these types of protests in many different schools, in many different types of schools, ranging from, you know, the big cities all the way down to the rural communities. And they come at a time when many lawmakers are taking steps to loosen gun restrictions. So I think they add extra oomph to the whole movement. And really, there's a sense of idealism and energy where these students are not willing to accept the status quo. And I think that, again, just infuses more energy into the movement. And politicians have to stand up and take notice.
Yeah, we have time for one more question. What do you see happening now in Indiana in terms of legislation moving forward?
Well, hopefully we've seen a pretty rocky session, and hopefully, you know, the momentum behind these messages from both students and adults alike will cause legislators to really question what types of bills they put forward, to really think about what school safety means. For example, they had one gun bill this year that would have ultimately reduced lifetime permits to a free permit available to everyone, stripping tens of millions of dollars for law enforcement safety. That's not something we really need.
Okay, we'll have to see. Thank you very much for being here.
You.
Appreciate it.